Cool. Well, I can wave at people. Oh, look at that. Ollie, thanks for joining, and for anybody else, thank you for coming along. Those who watch you live, and of course there'll be the recording, should be available later, assuming technology doesn't hate me too much. And we're going to be talking about the Friendzone today. Classic issue that pretty much every nice guy has experienced at some point in his life, and some continue to do so well into their adult years. And even when they don't, there's some key learnings we take away from the classic Friendzone experience. That's what we'll be talking about today. What does it tell us about the deeper issues that we have? So we're talking about that today. Specific episode, I had many of them, but I'll be talking about a specific one that kind of represents them all pretty well. Talk about why it happens upon reflection after all the years, and how I managed to sort of stop doing that. So I'll be doing some Q&A if there's enough people on here to actually be bothered asking questions. So you can comment with questions, thoughts, anything throughout this, and I'll address them at the end if I can figure out how to look at them. And that's what we'll do today. It won't be as long as that first live stream I did, which is like an hour. That was just an intro one. This one, hopefully from now on, the live streams will be pretty concise and, you know, just deal with one key point and try to be helpful. So I had a friend, we'll call her Mary, and she was somebody that I'd been to school with, actually primary school, and she lived kind of down the road from me in my local area. But, you know, she was a year below me in school. We'd never really had much interaction. I can't remember how we reconnected in my 20s, but it was during my massive drought phase. Those of you who know me, or know my content well, know that after my first girlfriend in high school, I basically had nothing going on with women for like 4 years. I didn't have sex for 4 years. Couldn't get a date, couldn't get a relationship going, despite what I felt was, you know, a huge amount of trying. Nothing happened, and during that time a lot of friend zoning happened. So during those 4 years, the best I could do was get up to the friend point with a girl, and I could never really carry it over the line to anything further. And Mary was a great example of this. So I can't remember how we initially connected, but before long I was in a pattern where I was spending a lot of time with her. 3-4 times a week I was walking down the road to her house and spending hours there, you know, talking, hanging out with her and her family, watching videos. I can't remember everything that we did. We didn't really go out anywhere, we just went to her house a lot. So I was spending hours and hours and hours with her, and having that kind of false intimacy that is classic of the friend zone. In my case, it's often becoming the kind of like pseudo-therapist. So they tell me all your problems, you know, and I solve all her problems for her and validate her. And in a way, it was kind of like very, very amateurish, unhealthy version of coaching. So I was probably working on some skills at least. But that's about the only positive that came out of this. But I was making her laugh a lot. That was kind of my specialty as a nice guy, making them laugh. It reminds me of Billy Connolly, the comedian. He talked about having this problem. He'd always make them laugh. And, oh, you're so funny. And then he's just like, God, just get your knickers off. You know, and then that's what I was like all the time. I was constantly trying to make them laugh. Constantly being very helpful and being the therapist. I'm this like funny therapist type guy, and the whole time I'm just like, God, why doesn't anything ever happen? Like, she clearly has positive feelings about me. You know, she'd rather spend time with me than anyone else in the world, from what I can see. And why is nothing happening in terms of, you know, sexual progress? Is probably how I was thinking of it. So this was very common for me, and with Mary, this went on for about a year, maybe not that long, but it's hard to remember. And as inevitably happens, at some point she starts telling me that she's having issues with some guy. There's a guy she likes and she doesn't know how to move it forward. Now I was super excited because I thought she was talking in code about me, you know. I thought she was trying to tell me that she likes me. She keeps saying this guy, and I know him really well, and I spent lots of time with him. I'm like, oh, it's finally happening. She's finally doing the something, whatever it is that makes this shit happen, which is how it happened with my first girlfriend. She basically made all the moves. And then she really specifically mentions it's this other guy and that she's lost her virginity to him and so on and so forth. And I'm just arrow right to the chest, as it all just comes crashing down. That's how it always ended for me, this idea of like, oh my god, I never had a chance. I was always just like the gay friend kind of thing. And this instant like hate and resentment coming up, not so much towards her, probably more towards myself or towards the greater universe for being unfair. I wasn't really ever a misogynistic guy, though that happens a lot for nice guys, this resentment towards women. But for me, it was always kind of self-centered. I was always resented myself for the way life went. I thought there's something wrong with me. I didn't blame women for hating this thing that's obviously broken, And so I totally bailed on her. I just went cold on her, stopped hanging out with her, stopped responding to probably texts or calls or whatever's happening back in the day. And, so for her it would have been bizarre. She had this like best friend who was like the brother she never had, hanging out with her all the time, and then she mentions that she's got a boyfriend now and he disappears. And this has happened to me a lot in my life. This whole process, that whole arc of a story playing out like that. There's even another girl on the same road who I went to school with that I lived out this thing with. And then I moved like 100 metres down the road and do it again. And I haven't learned my lesson, So, that's the Friendzone experience. A lot of you guys will know what that's like. Sometimes it's not as intense as spending hours and hours at their house, but could be someone, you have a very positive relationship with them. They clearly like you a lot. And you just kind of sitting there going like, I can't take this any further. And I believe they don't know that you want to take it further. Or if they do know, you assume they don't want you. But you're still desperately hoping something will happen. And then of course eventually there's some sort of crash. Usually when they get a boyfriend or something. Though some people like to get into friend zones with attached women. Because of our avoidant attachment styles, we generally like to be around unavailable women because we're secretly scared of intimacy. We don't actually want it to work out. This is the real dirty, dark secret to one-itis. When we become obsessed with one girl like this, it's because deep down we know we can't actually get anywhere with her, which is really what we want. We don't want to get anywhere with a girl because that terrifies us. Guys always tell me that they're afraid of failure and rejection when it comes to women, but they're actually far more afraid of success. Terrified of it. Like, if I was like, okay, well, here's an amazing, beautiful girl, and she wants to be your girlfriend, they would panic, because they don't know how to handle that. But I didn't know any of that at the time. I'm just this guy who's like, God, I've got no woman in my life, I'll do anything, I'll put that investment in. I didn't know what I was doing. So why? Why did it play out like this? Why did this girl clearly like me? Many, many hours together, what I thought were deep and intimate conversations, though it was one-sided. She told me everything. Why did nothing happen? By the way, for those of you watching, feel free to comment your theories as to why this kind of scenario plays out, but I'll share mine, which won't be all the information, but it's a lot of it. The key practical surface level issue is that I was attracted but scared to say anything. Okay, that would have changed everything. That was the thin point of the bottleneck kind of thing. And that is the difference between friendzone and not friendzone. You can even have healthy relationships with women you're attracted to, as long as the attraction's out on the table. And in the friendzone, the attraction, while it might be noticed and known about, it's never addressed directly. And that is how a friendzone situation is allowed to occur and continue. It's never called out, hey, I want to get into your pants, or words to that effect. It's always kind of implied with like flirty behaviour perhaps, but it's never directly brought out into the open. And so that's the main reason why this played out as long as it did. But of course that's the tip of the iceberg. Why did that not happen is the real question. Why did I not say this very obvious thing that was right there from the beginning? I was attracted to her, even back in school I found her attractive, so this was very obvious. It would have been very easy to say in terms of how to put the words in, like, oh, I used to have a crush on you in school and you're still hot. It would have been very easy to say something. But I never did, despite all the things I said. I never said that. Well, again, if we just go down one layer, why didn't I say it? There's a few answers. One is it's autopilot. I never said stuff like that. Okay, so my approach with women was to show up and hope that something happens. I had very much a follower approach. I would put in the work to like be available. I would make the opportunity available. I remember I'd go into town and dance near beautiful girls, or I'd go to a party and like go to the group that had the most single girls and talk to them. I was always trying to put myself like right in the situation, make the opportunity available. It's like guys who these days they'd be flipping through Tinder or something, you know, they're like trying to make themselves available. But I just show up and then go absolutely neutral. I show up and go passive. You go, okay, you make things happen now. Isn't that how it works? Like, I show up and the girl decides. Is that, why aren't you deciding, you know? The fact that she was a virgin kind of freaked me out. I have, nice guys tend to have this white knight noble kind of thing. And we actually find virgins very attractive. Because they're pure and untainted, and we don't have to compete with some sexual history, which is the secret reason we like virgins, is we don't get retroactive jealousy. But you know, I'd already been somebody's first. In fact, my first was their first as well, and that ended up being a big deal that broke my heart, so I probably had some reluctance to get into that again. We knew a lot of the same people, and this is pretty much a deal breaker for bravery when it comes to nice guys, is if this might affect my reputational risk, I can't do anything. You know, I found like when I travelled, I was a lot bolder and a lot more risk-taking socially. But back home, especially if I'm talking to a girl who I know knows people that I know, the possibility of doing something romantic or sexual with her just dies, because I imagine that it'll just grapevine out and everybody will find out everything. Size of my dick, what I'm like in bed, whatever. I'm like, okay, I can't let that information get out. And of course, this leads to the next problem, which is you've left it too long, right? So even the most naive of nice guys gets a sense of the window of opportunity closing, don't we? We're kind of working away at this and we go, oh shit, we've been friends for a while now, I think I fucking missed it. And that becomes the reason not to do it anymore. It's like, well, now it'd be too weird to bring it up. You know, now we're mates, right? And so that usually takes over as the reason not to bring it up. It's like, okay, well, first we have these other reasons to miss the initial window of opportunity, and then we have the excuse that the window of opportunity is being missed, and we use that as a reason not to. But still, we're not very deep into the old iceberg, are we? It's still like, well, why is all of this happening? What are the deep beliefs, the fears driving this? Well, they're not mysteries, really, are they? Fear of rejection. That's right there. Now, like I mentioned, we're actually far more afraid of success. If she'd been like, you know what, I love you, let's be together, I'd be like, oh shit, now what the fuck do I do? But I would have preferred that, probably. But fear of rejection was still there. And especially the actual moment of the rejection. The being here and her going, yeah, I'm not into you. I won't tell this story on this live stream because I'll save it for another one, but I got really badly humiliated in high school, more than once, trying to ask a girl out or trying to make a move. And so for me, getting rejected was associated with huge public humiliation. And no human being on the earth wants that. So I couldn't make a move because, as far as I was concerned, I had a high likelihood of getting rejected because I had low self-worth. I figured who would want this, you know? And it would be some sort of public... It wouldn't be done kindly and compassionately. It was always seemed to be very brutal and ruthless, the way it was done. There's also the fear of causing her pain. Nice guys bear the responsibility of everyone else's suffering on their shoulders. And the idea that she might be embarrassed or awkward by me doing something. She might feel pressured, especially pressured. I always was afraid of crossing the line, and that a girl wouldn't like have the bravery to tell me to stop, and then later on she would feel really bad or abused. So I was always terrified of being a rapist by mistake, sort of thing. So I didn't want to cause her any pain by putting her in the uncomfortable situation of me making a move, her feeling cornered and so on. Later on, the fear of causing disappointment. This was actually a fear I didn't realise I had until quite late into my 20s, and I was already working on my shit and I was doing pretty well, and then I disappointed somebody, and they use that word, like, I'm really disappointed in you, and I just like full relapse. I just crashed. I was just so ashamed, even though it was actually quite unreasonable for the person to be disappointed. They had unreasonable expectations of me. But yeah, sort of dialing back the clock, I now realise that I had a huge fear of disappointing people. It came from having a strict upbringing where disappointing my parents always came with heaps of shame and pain emotionally. And so the idea that, you know, she'd think, yeah, I finally got this friend, and then I have to disappoint her. Oh, I'm not actually your friend, I'm just trying to fuck you. That kind of thing. I didn't want to have to go through that. Of course, as I already mentioned, I had a history of women. I had a history of women that I deemed to be unsuccessful. Now, guys, this is what nice guys do, is we imagine that a girl will reject us, and so we don't make a move. And then our brain racks that up as a rejection, like, yeah, she didn't like me. And we can do this multiple times per day. I can't say anything to her because she wouldn't like me and she wouldn't like me. And so we get into our 20s or 30s or whatever, and we think, God, I've been rejected so many times. But whenever I'm coaching a guy and I'm like, well, how many times have you directly expressed attraction to a girl? Like, gone and put it all out on the line, just said, I'm really into you, let's make something happen, you know. The answer is usually less than 5 times ever, usually 0. Most nice guys have never been direct about attraction, ever. They've been sometimes indirect, but never direct. Never like, there's no doubt about what I'm saying right now. And yet they feel that they've been rejected thousands of times. Well, where are the rejections? A rejection only counts if you've been direct. The only way you can be sure that they're not interested in you is if you put your interest out there directly. Anything else, it might be a misunderstanding, misinterpretation. So nice guys will often tell me that they've been rejected heaps, but what they're really saying is they've rejected themselves heaps and tracked that, recorded that as rejections from others. So I have this history in my head now, when I'm with this girl, of like, no girl's really into me. Like, my success rate is like 1%, you know. And this girl's like high quality, beautiful girl. She's not going to be in that 1%. Which is just a completely inaccurate view of my history and pointless. What does it matter? Right? A confident person wouldn't care about a track record like that. But I'm not a confident person, at least not at this time. Plus we have even deeper issues. We go another layer deeper. We've got my upbringing and the shame I had around sexuality. I remember I made a sexual joke when I was a kid. I was like 7 years old or something. I made a sexual joke. Kind of humour you have between, you know, dirty young boys. And somebody took it really badly and told on me. This happened actually a couple of times. It's like I just didn't get the joke right, or I had no ill intentions, but it was definitely perceived as me being a bad person, and I just got humiliated by my parents and the teachers for doing this, and that combined with the kind of background, feminism background and so on happening at the time, I just had this overall impression like a guy being sexual is a horrible thing. It causes so much pain. It causes me pain to be it. You know, I get a lot of punishment if I ever dare show my interest in anything. You know, I remember getting caught looking at porn by my dad, you know, and just how much of a big deal he made about that, like I'd really like broken the law or something. So I have this is a deeper background where sexuality itself is shameful. So if we come up to the surface, like I'm going to tell a girl I like her, I've really got no chance of doing that. You know, my belief system's just not going to let that happen at this point. Then finally, all the previous women in my life that I had anything with, they'd done all the leading. And so I'm left with this impression like it's bad for me to be sexual. Every time I try, it causes pain both to me and others. And the only times anything's ever happened with women is when I just stay passive and they do all the work. And that's like all my history. There's no exceptions to that rule, so I assume that's how it works. Right? I don't really sit down and write this out on paper. Here are the laws of the universe. I just have a sense. Just show up, wait. That's how it works. And so this is how I kept repeating the friend zone pattern. So like I said, feel free to comment and leave your thoughts if any of this relates to you. But this is in general with my work coaching nice guys, this is the story. It's a different girl, it's a different time, slightly different nuances, but the iceberg of shit underneath it, the shame about sexuality, the certainty that's going to cause harm, the belief that the woman needs to lead or otherwise it's unsafe, so on. That's what the friend zone is all about. And be understanding, the friend zone's a kind of ironic term. This isn't a friendship, right? This isn't some healthy connection. It's the closest you'll get to intimacy. It's a safe version of intimacy for the avoidant type nice guy, but it's so false because of that huge glaring piece of information that's not been disclosed. The true feelings you have for someone aren't available. How can you say it's a real friendship if they don't know how you truly feel about them and you don't know how they truly feel about you? I mean, what kind of connection there? That's not a connection at all. That's how you feel about a stranger. You have no idea how they feel about you. They have no idea how you feel about them. So it doesn't matter how many hours you spend with someone. If this information isn't clear, if you're not sure how someone feels about you, you're not really connected to them. I've had this with like non-sexual friendships as well, like friendships with guys and stuff, where I'll be at a party. A great example is they'll organise something without me, and I'll be like, do I even have friends? It's people that I party with twice a week. I call them my friends, hang out with them, but they forget to invite me to like a New Year's away. Do I even know how they feel about me? And the answer would be no, right? And that's what it means. You don't really have a friend if you have no idea how they feel about you, and vice versa. And this is the classic of the friend zone. The main feeling you have for them is hidden. So of course, how to break out from this at a high level? I mean, first you have to let go of any friend zones that you're in. Any so-called friendships you have with girls that have attraction that has not been disclosed, it's over already. Walk away. I had to learn how to interact with women differently. I had to relearn it from the beginning, like I'd never done it before, which essentially I hadn't in any authentic way. And I had to learn how to be honest about intentions and feelings. I had to learn how to enter into a connection with somebody with nothing left unsaid, nothing important hidden under the surface. Not just attraction, but anything else. That's a big deal. That might be a deal breaker. I had to learn how to lead and initiate. I had to face my fear of rejection. I had to go blast my fear of rejection. And get to the point where, if there's going to be a rejection, let's make sure it happens in the first 30 seconds of meeting somebody. Let's make sure there's no investment. There's no sunk cost here. If they don't like me for me, the way I feel about them and everything. They don't have to reciprocate the feeling. They just have to know about it and be okay with it at least. But also to be honest with myself, if I don't want just a friendship with this person, then I've got to go for what I really want or end it completely. And so I had to work on all of that. That's essentially it. Fear of rejection, blasting through that, being honest about my feelings. That is how you make sure that the friend zone never happens to you again. Friend zone cannot exist if you're honest about attraction and your feelings, and you make something get to the point of rejection or acceptance. You go all in. And now I'm married. I don't have to do this shit anymore, which is nice. And this is a girl who, within my first real interaction, I told her that she was my favourite girl at the whole place. It was a dance event. And I invited her to stay at my house with heavy undertones of what that meant, So I went from someone who never said this stuff to saying it within the first, sentence of meeting someone. And I absolutely believe that had I not done that with this particular girl, nothing would have happened. I had to be bold. We lived in different cities. So for her to actually want to pursue something with me, she had to be 100% sure that it was worth pursuing, that she had a shot. She's not going to come up and stay in a different city on the hope that I like her, right? I had to be like, no, I definitely like you. You're in, right? No rejection's going to happen here. If you come and stay with me, I've only got one bed, if you know what I mean. So I made it really easy for her. So that's the Friendzone story. Thank you guys for tuning in. I don't think I got any questions this time, but I'm sure if you have any, you can send them through later. You can always comment below on the recording later on if you have any questions for me. And of course, if any of you want support in becoming more effective with women and getting to that point where you're fearless around rejection, or at least you enjoy the feeling of fear around rejection, and you feel comfortable putting your true intentions out there, and you get better at choosing the woman to do this with as well. You're not secretly, subconsciously choosing unavailable women so that you can avoid intimacy. You actually know how to find a woman and be attracted to a woman who's right for you. Get in touch, dan@brojo.org, or just message me or comment below, I'm interested, and I'll get in touch and we can talk a bit more about some of my upcoming one-to-one and group coaching that might be available for you. So that's us. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you all next time. Cheers.